Members, it's 11 a.m. This is the meeting of the Subcommittee on Policy Issues relating to strengthening and promoting the development of Kowloon East as the second central business district. We have a quorum. Let's invite the officials to join us. Our next meeting, which is the subject of item 1. The next meeting will be on the 18th of February 2025. The meeting will start at 10:45 a.m. That meeting will be on promotion of new industries and implementation of smart city initiatives in Kowloon East as the second central business district. We will look at the feasibility of promoting and realizing new industries on the basis of Kowloon East's manufacturing tradition. This includes looking at the provision of sandboxes and testing grounds for startups, reviewing the smart city initiatives of Kowloon East, including the success of smart lampposts, and also the viability of a low-altitude economy in the area. So, members, are we all good? Good. So that's what we will cover at the next meeting. We now come to item 2, exploring the potential of the waterfront of Kowloon East in supporting the economic growth of Hong Kong. Members who wish to speak, please press the request to speak button now. Now, the Permanent Secretary for Development Works, Mr. Ricky Lau, will walk us through the paper. Good morning, Chairman and members. First of all, I thank the Chairman and members for the in-depth exchange we had about transport in Kowloon East as CBD2. You gave us great ideas. So today we're discussing the potential of the waterfront in supporting Hong Kong's economic growth. We submitted a paper about the waterfront and water bodies. Kowloon East as CBD2 overlooks Victoria Harbour. We want everyone to be able to access the waterfront. So as we plan Kowloon East as CBD2 and the Kai Tak area, we have reserved the waterfront for a waterfront promenade. We want a diverse, vibrant, accessible, and inclusive harbourfront. The results are becoming more obvious. We have now opened up 4 kilometers of waterfront to the public. Last week, we opened up the riverside of Chirping River. That offers the public a pleasant environment, and people can go all the way to the Kwun Tong Promenade. Our overall goal is to link up the entire Kowloon East waterfront. This is the 20th anniversary of Hong Kong's waterfront development. We're taking an incremental approach in linking up the waterfront area and providing quality open space. Joining us today is also the head of, or rather, the commissioner for Harbourfront, and she will be taking questions from members. Now, on promoting the economy, we have people from the Culture, Sports and Tourism Bureau and the Marine Department. They will be here to discuss the matter with members. The Secretary for Development also submitted the protection of the Harbour Amendment Ordinance 2024 last week. With that amendment, we will be able to proceed with harbour enhancement work so that we can create a continuous waterfront promenade. For members who are interested, the Commissioner for Harbourfront can provide further details in a moment. Now, there will be a Kai Tak development area with the Kai Tak Sports Park. There will be opportunities. A meeting scheduled for April next year will be having a discussion of greater depth into that area, culture, sports, and tourism. So I now give the floor to my colleague, the head of Energizing Kowloon East office, who will tell us more about this area. Now, Kowloon East overlooks Victoria Harbour. It starts from the west in Ma Tau Kwok, and then you have the Kai Tak development area all the way to the east where you have Kwun Tong and Cha Kuo Lane. 4 kilometers of waterfront is already open to the public, and that includes the Kwun Tong Promenade. It's the first project of the Kowloon East waterfront, and then in August 2023, Charcoal Lane and Tripping River also opened. Now, as for the Riverside Promenade, that also opened last week, and that massively enhanced the accessibility of Kowloon East and also the accessibility of Kwun Tong as a whole. The Kai Tak waterfront with the children's hospital section, and there's also a section of public open space next to a residential development. And with Horsham Park, there's also a section of the promenade that also opened in April 2023. Given the progress of the different projects, by 2028, the CBD2 in Kowloon East will see a waterfront promenade of up to 8.3 kilometers. The new waterfront section will be completed soon. Now, in the former runway precincts and also the Kai Tak Metro Park waterfront section, and also the dining cove of the Kai Tak Sports Park, the Shingfeng Road Park nearby, and the waterfront section of the Kai Tak New Acute Hospital. We also have 2.2 kilometers of waterfront area. That's part of our future plans. Once all that work is completed, you will see 11 kilometers of waterfront promenade. The government encourages dining, retail facilities in the waterfront area. At this moment, most of that activity is in the Kwun Tong waterfront. You have the flyover operation. In that venue, there are restaurants. They have been offering catering services. Along the waterfront, old industrial buildings have been renovated. In the waterfront area, there are different retail and F&B facilities. Malls are now in place, and they now offer a greater variety of options. The government also encourages private businesses to bring in a diverse range of facilities. Now, along the Kai Tak Promenade, you will see retail and catering facilities. The Harbor Office, under the Development Bureau, brought in the first smart specialty snack vending machines. In Kwun Tong and Charcoal Lane waterfront, 2 more such retail facilities also opened yesterday. Now, as for the Kai Tak Sports Park, where you can see the Victoria Harbor, that area will provide new experience to visitors and locals. There will be more than 700,000 square feet of dining and retail space. There will be 9 restaurants. People can choose indoor or outdoor seating in the dining facility, and then they can take in the view of the Victoria Harbor. Near the Kai Tak Sports Park is the Shingfeng Road Park. It's 3.9 hectares in area. This will be one of the largest open spaces along the waterfront. There will be facilities with a floating platform, viewing deck, amphitheater, snack bar, etc. The Shingfeng Road Park's works are mostly done. Talks are now going on about handover and opening up. In Kowloon East, the waterfront areas under construction and now open are mainly managed by the LCSD. There will be play areas for children and multi-purpose lawns. To enhance the inclusivity and accessibility of these facilities, where appropriate, we will also bring in the greenway, where you have pedestrians and cyclists. Some sections are now already open to the public. Apart from the waterfront areas, the LCSD also holds different events and also allows organizations to apply for the venue to hold events, festival events, cycling events, etc. And those events promote the economy of Kowloon East. Now I want to discuss the flyover events. And this is a key part of the placemaking strategy. Starting from 2013, the flyover operation has seen the use of the idle site under flyovers for different purposes, amphitheaters, urban farms, restaurants, etc. Those spaces become a gathering point for the public. The space under the flyovers have hosted more than 1,900 events in culture sports, drawing in more than 900,000 participants. In 2024, many events were held, and that included, and in October this year, there was an event themed on the Halloween, and there was also a Kerry Street-a-thon, where these areas was part of the route. In May 2025, the lease will expire. We're now going through the open tendering process. We have made it clear that operators have to leverage market forces for the operation of the venue. Now, on the Kuntong Typhoon Shelter, it's at the heart of Kowloon East. With measures to improve the water quality, we now see much better quality, and now there are strategies to co-use the water bodies. There are guidelines now on co-using the water bodies in the typhoon shelter in a safe way. In August 2018, the vessel passageway was broadened from 50 to 100 meters for more water activities. There were 3 water sports training centers, and they're gradually in operation. Different organizations have held different kinds of international events, recreational events, and training sessions. Now, for some recent held events, they include, in October, the 15th Asian Dragon Boat Championship. To encourage the holding of more events in Kowloon East, the office will continue to coordinate the event. Now, on amending the protection of the harbor ordinance, under the current ordinance, all reclamation, regardless of size, are subject to the presumption against reclamation. You have to prove an overriding public need before you can go ahead with reclamation. That's why the government proposes amendments. The bill was tabled for first reading last week. The point about the amendment is to relax the rules. If a project meets certain criteria and requirements, such as building a pier or a viewing deck, those projects will be exempted from this presumption against reclamation. This bill, once passed, may benefit enhancement projects, such as the project to enhance accessibility of Grand Waterfront. And we can build boardwalks by passing private developments. We will also be able to explore options to revitalize the vehicular ferry pier. And we can also explore landing facilities, smaller piers. Now, we're still at the drawing board for these ideas. We don't have a timetable yet, but amending the ordinance will give us greater flexibility with those projects. So I will stop here with my presentation. Anything to add from other officials? No. Thank you. 7 members, including me, are waiting to speak. The order is like this: Mr. Chen Pui-leung, Mr. Kitson Yang, Mr. Perry Yu, Mr. Ring Kong, Dr. Frankie Ngan, Mr. Kenneth Falk, followed by me. Before we start, a few points to note. Now, we have officials from different departments. We have an assistant director from the Marine Department. The Marine Department would like to get more involved in the discussion. And we also have the Principal Assistant Secretary, Ms. Irina Wen from the Culture, Sports and Tourism Bureau. We have the head and deputy head from the Energizing Kowloon East office. We also have the commissioner for Harbourfront. So many departments are present here. That's one. The theme of this subcommittee Rather, this agenda is about exploring the potential of the waterfront of Kowloon East in supporting the economic growth of Hong Kong. Now, the paper from the government is simply about harbor waterfront. But the point of our subcommittee is to look at Kowloon East as a CBD. We want to promote economic growth. Members may have your respective focuses, but that's fine, it's up to you. I think one more member has pressed the button. No? So let's do 6 minutes for each member. Questions and answers inclusive. Mr. Chen Pui-Leung.
Thank you, Chair. For the waterfront promenade, if we look at the plan, I think the promenade is quite complete. It goes all the way from Ma Tau Kok to Cha Kwa Ling. There's the view of the Victoria Harbour as well as the typhoon shelter. If we do well, it can be beneficial in multiple aspects. Now, with the completion, however, it takes quite some time. For the first 1.7 kilometers, it took 15 years to complete. And if we look at the plan, we only have 1/3 of the promenade open now. The rest are almost ready for opening. Some are still planned. Is it possible that we can expedite the completion of the other sections so as to have a connected waterfront? We now see fragmented sections. They are not exactly connected right now. Is it possible that we can have a more comprehensive waterfront? My second question is, in the paper, it is said the design of the waterfront would have recreational and F&B facilities. Since the promenade is so long, if we adopt this design, would visitors think that the facilities are there's no diversity with the facilities? Even if we are to provide F&B facilities, can we have themed facilities? So say if facilities are close to the runway area, we would have some plain themed facilities so as to provide a theme to each area to make it more fun, and it would be more attractive for visitors. My third question is that for Lei Yuen Mun, Cha Kwa Ling, there are still some sections for cargo handling areas and typhoon shelters. If we are to make it into a waterfront, if we are to retain such, how can we make sure the development would remain one that is for the waterfront mainly, so as to tap fully into the commercial potential? Thank you. Permanent Secretary. For the first question, third question, how we are to develop the waterfront. Along the waterfront, we have different sections. Some sites are government land, some are to be developed by private developers. With the development of the waterfront, we really have to tie in with the progress of different projects. But we are adopting an incremental approach where we're connecting the waterfront first before we enhance the waterfront. We believe the waterfront will be diverse, accessible, and inclusive in future. We also want to make the waterfront more special, as the member suggested. I will let the Commissioner talk about the specific features later on. With the EKEO, there we have 7 odd kilometers. We have opened 4 kilometers. We will have approximately 8 kilometers available in the next 3 or 4 years. But apart from quantity, quality is also important. We need to make sure we have both the hardware and software needed. So to answer your second question, it's not just about having F&B and retail facilities. Holding events is also important. We need the flow of people to the waterfront to promote our economic activities. We would have, say, cultural activities or tourism activities. This may in turn create impetus for growth in the hotel industries. We can probably also have mega events in the area. We held the Dragon Boat Championships. In future, we have the commissioning of Kai Tak Sports Park. It may bring about some impetus in the commercial aspect as well. There are different commercial centers in the area. We have some shopping malls. There can perhaps be some collaboration, perhaps in the form of offers offered by the shops to bring more footfall to the area. We have already done some work in this area. Perhaps the Commissioner for Harbourfront can talk about this later. We, of course, want to have a connected waterfront. As for Charcoaling and Lake Yumun, we do have something in the works. I will again let the Commissioner speak on this. Well, Permanent Secretary, you are already past the 6-minute time limit. We can perhaps have a second round where the government officials can provide more information. I would ask for questions answers to be completed within the 6 minutes. Mr. Yang Wing-kit, I have 4 questions and suggestions. I will try to be brief. For connectivity and accessibility, I think it is beneficial that we are going to amend the protection of the harbor ordinance in Kowloon City and To Kwa Wan. If we are to connect the waterfront, it is definitely necessary. With the incremental approach, I do not really agree with this. I think connecting and enhancing the waterfront should be done at the same time. Say, in To Kwa Wan, I believe with the amendments passed, it would be very easy to connect the waterfront in the area. But we shouldn't stop there. We have talked about how we are going to revitalize the Kowloon City Vehicular Ferry Pier. So with connecting the waterfront, we should really think about how to enhance the waterfront. At the same time, perhaps we can hold workshops to brainstorm ideas for revitalizing the waterfront and enhancing the waterfront. If we are to have a beautiful waterfront, I think what is special in Kowloon East is the waterfront. We need to do more in developing harborfront economy. We have the Standard Chartered Marathon. We also have the Streetathon. I think Hong Kong can become the best place for marathons in future because we have a beautiful waterfront. We can perhaps make the name into a harborathon to emphasize our beautiful harbor. Apart from holding Dragon Boat Championships, we have good food in the area. We have the Dining Cove, but we can do more. We can bring the Wine and Dine event into the area. We can not only have such events at the Central Harbourfront event space, we can hold more of such signature events in Kowloon East in order to develop the economy in the area. I thank the chairman for inviting the Marine Department representative to attend this meeting. I want to talk about drone performances. Drone performances can be a big part of the event's economy, but with drone performances, we have to coordinate many departments to make it happen. In the Kai Tak waterfront, if we are to have more drone shows? Can we have an office, perhaps the EKEO, to provide one-stop services to coordinate such drone performances, so we do not need to go to the LCSD to apply for the new. We do not have to liaise with the police, the civil aviation department to actually make the events happen. Is it possible that we can have coordinated one-stop services so that it would be easier for organizers to hold drone performances? Lastly, on yacht economy, the government said the Hong Kong Pier, well, the location close to the Hong Kong Coliseum is to become a berthing spot for yachts. I think we can also develop yacht economy in Kowloon East. We can hold yacht exhibitions, yacht sales. We can also develop yacht insurance services in Kowloon East. Altogether, it will help develop the harbor economy in the area. We can provide high-end services here in this area as well. Thank you. Permanent Secretary. First, I would like to thank the members' support for our amendments to the protection of the harbor ordinance. The amendments would really help us enhance the waterfront. I agree that the incremental approach at first with the fragmented sections, that would be the priority approach, but we should also think about enhancing waterfront at the same time. Regarding your two suggestions, with the marathon part, we already had the Hong Kong Streetathon held in Kowloon East this year. And we also keep an open mind on the holding of drone performances. We have the head of the EKEO here today, and we have a portal in the form of the EKEO that will help provide coordination between departments and organizers to hold such events. As for the wine and dine event, with how we can perhaps hold that near the waterfront, I'll let the LCSD representative answer that question. With the development of yacht economy, the Development Bureau, as said, we have Hong Kong. We have also Lamma Island close to the ex-quarry site, as well as the Aberdeen Typhoon Shelter Extension. In the first half of 2025, we will gauge the intention of organizers or stakeholders. We have approximately 100 to 200 berthing spots. We keep an open mind on whether we can develop relevant areas in Kowloon East. We actually held yacht-related events in the area before. I will again let the Marine Department representative answer the relevant question. Please be brief. I will perhaps ask you to only have one representative supplement your answers for now. I'll have the Marine Department representative speak then. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Based on our records, in January 2018 in Aberdeen Typhoon Shelter, close to the entry and exit of such, there was an international sailing competition, Hong Kong Lake, that was held. There were also some events on land. At sea, we had boats that were exhibited in the area. In November of 2019-2020, we had yacht sales events held there. The size was approximately 1 to 2 hectares. The water was quiet, and 10 odd yachts were exhibited, and there were landing facilities available for people to get on and off the yachts. When applications were received by the Marine Department would work with the relevant departments to make sure if the operations of typhoon shelters were not affected, we would allow such applications. Let me confirm something. The responsible department would be the Marine Department, right? Whenever waters are used, the Marine Department would definitely be able to offer some valuable suggestions. If it is in Kuntong or Kowloon East, the head can perhaps provide more advice. Thank you.
Members, if you have follow-up questions, please press the button again to speak for the second round. Mr. Perry, you. Thank you. We're discussing the potential of the waterfront of Kowloon East in fostering economic growth. I see much potential. It's 11 kilometers of waterfront areas. Kowloon East is a late mover because you can apply new thinking to the development plans of the area. But as Mr. Chen Pui-Leung pointed out, the waterfront there is fragmented. We need to move faster. And as Mr. Kitson Yang said, we want to go faster in not just linking up, but also spicing up. Last week, I was honored to join an event organized by the DST about the opening ceremony of the revitalized Choping River. I was impressed. It was a very successful project. It was in Nolan, but then it became a new landmark in Kuntong for people to take pictures. With interdepartmental collaboration, many things become possible. Now, I'm also a member of the Harbourfront Commission myself. Now, we have the Kai-Tak Cruise Terminal. We also have the Kai-Tak Sports Park. There's waterfront space between these two facilities. Let's put piers and landing facilities in that area. I can see the Development Bureau is studying the idea with the CSTB and the TLB. I thank you for that. Let's make use of the body of water. Someone just mentioned yacht tourism and the berthing. We should also look at water transport, like water taxis. Or ferry tours. Let's do landing steps, and then we can promote those options to tourists. We should look into these ideas. Let's have landing facilities and piers. That way, passengers from cruises and also people who come here for events at the Kai-Tak Sports Park will be able to access the water transport and join ferry tours. Now, my questions. I've been getting my industry to visit the Kai-Tak Sports Park to find out about how things are coming along and the future plans for the businesses there. We want to bring different businesses together to enhance the effect of the mega event economy. We visited the place, we looked at the hotel. Near the Kowloon City ferry pier, you see barges in the area, and people wonder if that's a waste of the space. This is a world-class landmark, but all that you see are barges. So can we move those barges elsewhere to free up the water so that the space can be put to better use? I have read through the paper. Paragraph 6 says this: developing the waterfront is about offering diverse and more vibrant experiences for people. And then paragraph 12 says the waterfront promenades are mostly managed by the LCSD. The department balances the needs of different stakeholders. So this means that there will be recreational facilities, public open space, etc. I wonder if there are inconsistencies in the strategy and approach. The LCSD is about providing recreational space, open space. But the Bureau wants to provide unique experiences and create a vibrant waterfront for more retail options. So how can we take an interdepartmental approach? So are there inconsistencies? I think you're almost out of time. Permanent Secretary. We agree. We want a vibrant waterfront. We have to spice up the different sections that are linked up. We want to make the most of the waterfront for more economic activities. We're open to ideas. Mr. Yu is an expert. We welcome ideas from him. If I have time left, maybe I can invite the commissioner to tell us more about that. That is what features we're offering in different sections. Now, on the landing facilities, after the last meeting, we talked to the CSTB and the TLB about this. The landing facilities can serve tourism purposes and can also facilitate water transport. Those two bureaus will actively look into the idea. Now, on the Kai Sports Park, the barges need to be there for operational reasons. If I have time left, maybe I can get the MD to tell us more. Now, on the point about the LCSD, there's a clear division of labor within the government. Now, for promenades managed by the LCSD, those promenades are special. Those people are open to new ideas. The commissioner will coordinate the different measures. Say we have the Greenway. It's a new concept. It's already reflected in the promenade. So can you get your colleague to give us a brief reply? So two members asked about the features. So many sections of the promenade are managed by the LCSD. The venues of the flyover operation are next to the Kwun Promenade. When an event happens, you have two venues in action at the same time. So we're not just using the space beneath flyovers, we're also using the waterfront. And we have a well-established mechanism for working with the LCSD for events. Through interaction, we have forged consensus with the LCSD. With our collaboration, the LCSD is now open to different ideas and they're open to new arrangements. Say, open air market. You can put structures next to the lawn. The LCSD is fine with that. Once we try certain things and it worked, then the LCSD allows that to go ahead. We have different events taking place at the waterfront of Kowloon East, so that's my point. Now, on the matter about having a theme for each section of the promenade, that is indeed what we have in mind in designing the promenade. Now, on the space beneath the flyovers in Kwun Tong, where you have many people, we put the event space there because we have a large space and we want that space to be part of the waterfront. We try to get a special theme for each section. Say you have the new acute hospital. Outside the hospital, there's a section of the waterfront. There you find play facilities for children. That's to tie in with the theme of the children's hospital. Now, as for the Kai Tak Runway Park, the theme of that park was synergized with the former Kai Tak Airport, where planes take off and land. Members may recall we put a plane there that proved popular with the public. The future Kai Tak Park will also adopt this theme in its design. You will see the Xingfeng Road Park completed soon. that's very close to the Kai-Tak Sports Park. That park will also synergize with the sports park in design. So you will see open space, open design with performance venues. That park can serve different functions given its proximity to the sports park. And very soon, you will also see the waterfront area of the Metro Park. I visited the area. It's done. It's completed. That area is south facing. You can overlook the entire Victoria Harbour. There are steps for you to take in the scenery. You get a panoramic view of the Victoria Harbour. So that's the waterfront area of the Kai-Tak Metro Park. You will see that very soon. So you're looking at the Victoria Harbour, and then you have parts of the waterfront near private development. There will be greenways to support the activities in the area. Now, for the areas near the flats on the southern side, we need retail and catering facilities in the waterfront area. The plans are there, but they have yet to open. Once they are open, they will generate vibrancy in the area. I'm sorry we have overrun just then. We move on to Mr. Rincon. Chairman, waterfront development is close to my heart. I live close to the waterfront myself. At 8 or 9 p.m., I drive, I take a look at the waterfront. Now, my thoughts. We have a long coastline. That's good. But that also warrants a vast amount of resources. We have had successful waterfront parks. I know the government is making a real effort in this area, but we have finite resources. I know we are discussing Kowloon East today, but we have so many waterfront parks, waterfront areas in general. Where is the government's priority? You have to prioritize the areas. How does the government set its priorities? Now, I turn to catering. When I go jogging at night or at noon, the dining facilities are kind of rudimentary. I see few, if any, presentable restaurants. So here's an idea. Can we charge a lower fee for the restaurants to operate? Visitor levels or patron levels vary throughout the year, but you need the atmosphere in the waterfront area. Apart from Tsim Sha Tsui East, the other waterfront areas are visited by few people in the evening. Now, on the small ferry piers, on different occasions, members proposed small piers in Kai-Tak for tourists. In Tsim Sha Tsui East, people cluster there. At 7 p.m., you see tourist coaches triple parked in the area. I could not get into Salisbury Road when I knock off in the evening. Have we considered smaller piers in Kwun Tong to disperse the people? Now, on Kwun Tong, I see this idea flying the flyover. Can we have outdoor open space? Can we have mini concerts and skating contests? Because few people live around, and you have minimal nuisance. Now, on the point about the LCSD, you can do better. The LCSD has little notion of the development strategy. They are very strict in enforcement. So look at the Kai-Tak Cruise Terminal. Restaurants cannot put a table for outdoor seating. That's no way for people to do business. So the Bureau needs to talk to the LCSD and tell them about your strategy.
Permanent Secretary. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Rincon. Mr. Rincon asked several questions. Perhaps I'll let Commissioner for Harbourfront talk about the Harbourfront's development priorities. On F&B facilities, we do want to have more F&B facilities close to the harbourfront. As for the quality of services, as the head of the EKEO said, we want to provide some quality F&B facilities, themed facilities in the runway area. Close to the Kai-Tak Sports Park, we will also have some quality F&B facilities. If we have the time, I'll let the CSTB representative talk about this. I also heard what members suggested. We have referred to the TLB and CSTP to consider the relevant ideas, and the EKEO can play a coordinator role. If you have other suggestions, please let us know. As for activities to be held, we have the flyover operation. From 2013 until now, we have held 1,900 events. We had over 900,000 participants. If there is time, I'll let the head of the EKEO talk about this. We have already been liaising with the LCSD in the planning stage of the events. If we have new ideas, we have actually shared our planning intent with them, and we have all along had coordination. In future, if we are to continue with this approach, we believe we will achieve much. If the chairman would allow it, I'll perhaps first let the Commissioner for Harbourfront speak. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kong, for your question, and thank you, Permanent Secretary, for the introduction. On the priorities for resource allocation, we have done much in developing the harbourfront, and in previous years' policy addresses, resources had been allocated for the development of harbourfront, but mostly it would be on the Hong Kong island. Some resources were also allocated to the development of waterfront in Kowloon East. That would be approximately $1.5 billion. We had a number of projects planned in Kowloon East, close to Metro Park, as well as Shingfeng Road Park. The waterfront sections are prioritized, and these are to be open in 2028 or before. So that is approximately what the situation was. I'll perhaps let the LCSD or CSTB representative speak. Please be brief. Thank you. We heard the member express their views on the economy in the area, especially in Kai-Tak Sports Park. With the commissioning of the Kai-Tak Sports Park in the first quarter of next year, we will have a comprehensive venue for events, F&B, and cultural activities. In the next year, as shown before in the PowerPoint presentation, we would have 9 themed restaurants. They are higher-end restaurants. When large events are held in the area, apart from the 9 restaurants, we would have other theme markets in the area to attract more footfall. In the park, apart from the 3 main stadiums, next to the main stadium, there is a large outdoor space. So perhaps, as the member suggested, we can perhaps hold wine and dine events or other F&B events in the area. There is much potential to tap into, and that should also help vitalize the area and boost the economy. That's it from me. Thank you. And now I ask the next member to speak, Dr. An Man Yu. Thank you, Chair. I would first like to thank the EKEO and the Harbourfront Commission for their efforts in developing facilities in Kowloon East. I have several questions. On charcoaling waterfront that goes from Kwun Tong to Lei Yun Moon. That section of the waterfront, what are your plans? And on water taxi services, I'm not talking about existing water taxi routes or the kinds of vessels used. I'm talking about the kind of vessels that would only house, say, 10 people and that would dock at different places. I believe licenses will be handed out or approved in future. Will you or have you invited operators to have these enhanced vessels for water taxi services? The operators did not know it would be that easy to obtain a license, so have you communicated with the operators on this? Now, do you also have any plans for land exchange in the area, especially close to Yao Tong? On Tongyun Street, there are several sites that are private land. Before, there was said to be a 20-meter setback to develop the harborfront, but if they are not to redevelop, this will not apply. So have you considered land exchange in the relevant areas? Also, I mentioned on previous occasions, the CEDD said from Kai Tak Runway to Kwun Tong Road, the feasibility is being conducted. When will we have the findings? Will we have some good news? And many members talked about F&B facilities close to the harborfront, close to charcoaling waterfront. Can you work with the VTC, have the VTC develop the area? And the VTC has some very famous Chinese and Western culinary institutes, so perhaps we can have their students or graduates provide food and beverage services in the area. Thank you, Permanent Secretary. Close to the charcoaling waterfront and perhaps the idea in general of having VTC operate the services in the area, I'll let the relevant colleague answer the question. And on water taxi services, we have already heard the calls of the member. As for whether we will invite the operators, we will perhaps ask the TLB to consider the relevant suggestion. On land exchange plans in the area, I do not have the relevant information on hand. I do not know much about the situation. Once we have more information after the meeting, we'll share it with the member. On connectivity in the area, we would have a flyover or pedestrian footbridge that would have automated transport facilities, but there are some restrictions. If we are to have the road be a vehicular road, where should we put the accesses? So we are still looking into it. We are conducting a feasibility study to derive some potential proposals. Once we have more information, we'll share it with the relevant member. Let me clarify something. The member is not just talking about connecting to Ao Kok. They are connecting to the end of the runway that is close to Ho Yun Road. Do we have a cross-harbor structure that would provide access to the area? We'll have several projects in the works. We have one that would go across Kwun Tong Typhoon Shelter. There is one that goes from Kai Tak Runway to Kwun Tong. Before we have this structure that is just for pedestrians, but then members suggested whether we could include cyclists or perhaps vehicles as well to allow access for cyclists and drivers to go across the typhoon shelter. I'll let the commissioner speak on the other issues. Thank you, Chair. In fact, close to the harbor front, we have plans to reserve an area in Yaotong Bay to develop the waterfront. Most of the residential developments in the area are private, and they already had plans to reserve area for the development of the waterfront. They are now discussing the land leases terms. We also have some areas such as for the ventilation building for the Eastern Harbor Crossing. We also have some WSD facilities, and some departments have agreed in principle to release land in the area if we have plans in mind. On charcoaling waterfront, during the discussions of the Harbourfront Commission, we have had similar suggestions made by members of the Harbourfront Commission. And outside the school in the area, we have some space. We have the provision of utilities, and we can provide F&B facilities in the area. Thank you. Next, Mr. Kenneth Fogg. Thank you. I'll be brief. I do see the Marine Department representative here. I just want to provide some comments. I do not require a reply. Recently, we held the Asian Dragon Boat Championships. We will soon hold the World Championships. I believe you are in the talks at the moment. We, of course, want to see it happen, but if there is some water quality problems, we do not want that to happen. I do not require a reply. I just hope that the issues can be ironed out, because if the events are cancelled, it can really hurt our reputation. Again, I do not need a reply on this. On waterfront development, I appreciate the efforts made by the government. I understand that the canoe associations and unions have been making things happen. And we are to have in Aberdeen, Lamma Island, and Hong Kong some yacht berthing spaces. Does the EKEO have any plans to make good use of this part of the harbor in Kowloon East so that we can have a long-term water activity hub? So we will have the current typhoon shelter berthing facilities moved elsewhere so that we can accommodate events at different times of the year. Actually, not just events, but also water sports, so that the people of Hong Kong can make good use of the space. Also note that in paragraph 8 of the paper, we have talked about there are some guidelines, and as early as 2021, they were already promulgated. But then we do see many restrictions. I will not go into the details here. But we have already promulgated the guidelines in paragraph 18 for quite some time. We have seen the Audit Commission note that there have been a low utilization rate of spaces in the area. So can we make good use of the spaces to develop more or hold more cultural or recreational events? Regarding the use of harbor's front space for F&B facilities, the government officials said there would be more high-end facilities, but I think the EKEO can think about how in South Korea we have Hangang, and people don't really go to Han River for high-end food. They are just eating ramen, basically. And if you search online, you see a lot of people posting photos on where to go along the Han River to eat ramens, to get a good view. So this is part of the promotion. Of course, it's not just about Kowloon East. We can just have ramen close to any part of the Victoria Harbour. We have somewhere outside the central government offices that we can have some smaller stalls that can do such things to directly or indirectly promote Hong Kong. We have some companies where I'm the director that are looking to move to different spaces, and we are looking into traditional options in Causeway Bay or whatever. The management did not provide any options in Kowloon East. So I think it's not about promoting for developers. If we are to energize Kowloon East, we really need to make sure there is no imbalance in information or we are not limited in perspective. I think the EKEO can take a proactive approach. You can go to chambers of commerce, different business associations, or perhaps SME business associations. You do not have to say which building is good. We can just have them provide different options that are actually very affordable so that they know that there are such good options in Kowloon East, and then they will know more about the connections to the area. When they are to relocate, they can think about options in Kowloon East. I think Mr. Kenneth Fox's questions demonstrate that we have done something in this subcommittee. Thank you.
都好好嘅。
P.S. On the Dragon Boat Championship, the organizer is in touch with the government. We will keep an eye on how things go. On reviewing the guidelines and publicity about the waterfront, the commissioner can tell us more in a moment. It's about the publicity, building a brand, and that will make a difference. Now, on Kowloon East as CBD2, we want more people to go there. The secretary also said this last time. We will be coordinating internally on stepping up publicity on the water sports centers. The Marine Department can tell us more in a moment. The Kwun Typhoon Shelter serves a purpose. We have a space. There's a vessel passageway. It used to be 50 meters wide. Now it's double the width, 100 meters. In terms of length, it's 900 meters. You can do rowing, yachting, stand-up paddling. Events are going on. When a major event takes place, we can coordinate how it goes. Take the 15th Dragon Boat Championship. We coordinated with the organizer and we made the event a success. And we can keep that up. Now maybe I can get my colleagues to supplement the response. The 2021 guidelines have to do with the development of public open space by private developers. The guidelines came out some years ago. The spirit of the guidelines is flexibility for commercial and non-commercial activities. As long as it's safe, it's hygienic, and you're not obstructing other people using the space. Once these conditions are met, we do encourage the use of the open space for commercial purposes. We're working with the Lands Department and reviewing the guidelines. We're looking at whether we can have something further, say more criteria on top of the guidelines, on fees, on the threshold, etc. We're working on that so that we can foster commercial activities. Anything to add? If possible, I want to invite the Marine Department to tell us more. Thank you. We have to strike a balance between the needs of the users of the typhoon shelters and also those engaging in water sport. In 2017, the government talked to stakeholders. There was no objection from the industry. So in 2018, in August 2018, we doubled the width of the vessel passageway from 50 meters to 100 meters. It's now 100 meters wide, 900 meters long. There is enough flexibility for different kinds of water sports. When you need even wider passageways, the Marine Department will look at the proposal. We will evaluate the impact on other vessels, and we will talk to stakeholders. Thank you. Just one comment. The government mentioned space. I get it. We can try to work something out. Water quality is also top of mind for us. For water sports, you need good water quality. For motor yachts and yachts in general, they may be affected by water pollution. So, can I get the government to keep an eye on that? I think it's at level 2. Professor William Wong. Today we're discussing exploring the potential of the waterfront of Kowloon East in fostering economic growth in Hong Kong. Members have discussed tourism. For me, I want to discuss bringing in businesses and also turning Hong Kong into a hub for family offices. To bring in outside talent, we need support measures. Kowloon East offers great environment. Yachts also matter. People on board a yacht can offer drone delivery of food for yacht parties. Now, I know we will discuss the low altitude economy in the future, and that's not for today, but I'm saying when you want to foster the economy of the entire area, let's not neglect these aspects. We should take a three-dimensional approach to planning. Let's not just think about what's on land. Let's also think about what's in the air to foster the economy. We thank Professor Wong for his remarks. Let's see if the PS has any response. Bringing in outside businesses requires efforts on many fronts. It's more than just about the economy. The environment is also a factor. Vibrancy, inclusiveness. Hong Kong is also known for its great outdoors. The great outdoors are just a step away from the city center. People from overseas like that. In the first half of next year, we will be inviting expressions of interest. We want to explore opportunities for tourism. Berthing of yachts is one area. It's not just about the berthing. We also want exhibition and sales of yachts to foster the economy. We're looking at that. Now, on drones, as Professor Wong said, I know the Transport and Logistics Bureau has plans about drones. Now, on the three-dimensional approach to planning, we do keep an eye on that. We're looking at the space. We want to create the atmosphere. Indeed, we have to work on that. We thank Professor Wong for his point. I'm sorry, PS. I want to ask a follow-up question based on Professor Wong's question. So, on ordering delivery by a drone from land to a yacht, that's legal, right? If it's commercial in nature. I don't have specifics at hand, but I think there is a protocol. The Civil Aviation Department has rules on that. The Transport and Logistics Bureau is taking a holistic view about making use of the aerial space. So, Professor Wong may have further points to make. You're welcome to share those thoughts with us. Now it's my turn. Does anyone wish to speak for the second round? I see Mr. Rincon will be speaking for the second round. Now, for myself, I have some questions. First, it's about the waterfront. Where does East Kowloon end? Is it Lei Yu Moon? The boundary of the Kowloon East CBD2 stops at Chagua Lane. But what about Lei Yu Moon? Does it end at Lei Yu Moon? We can draw tourists with the waterfront. We can also bring in businesses. It's a great place for businesses. We can hold events at the waterfront to provide an economic boost, such as the Asian Dragon Boat Festival. Mr. Kenneth Falk focused on sports, but then when you have athletes here, they generate an economic boost. So, for a holistic review, how do we better leverage the waterfront of Kwun Tong and of Kowloon East as a whole? Will you be more flexible in using the land? Now, I know the tendering is going on for space under flyovers. Maybe you can tell us about how many tenders you have received. And can you give us the lay of the land? From Kwun Tong to To Kwa Wan, the waterfront is close to a lot of industrial buildings. Industrial buildings are right next to the waterfront or a promenade. Over time, the waterfront area will become a gathering point. Industrial buildings come with canteens. They cannot meet the needs of people visiting the waterfront. So, at that level, can we relax the rules so that all commercial sites or industrial buildings next to the waterfront can offer proper restaurants for seating, outdoor seating, instead of just sealing off the building because the buildings happen to be industrial buildings? Can we have a holistic strategy? Now, on water sports, it's not just about sports. Are we seeing more businesses related to water sports coming to Kowloon East? Can the government tell us more about this? Now, the commissioner can tell us more about the east end of Kowloon East in a moment. On drawing more tourists, holding more events, and making flexible use of land, the head of EKEO can tell us more in a moment. On industrial buildings, we do have guidelines in place. On water sports, sports is an industry. We can have a deeper discussion about how to promote sports as an industry. Maybe my colleagues from the CSTB will have something to say in a moment. First, let's hear from the Commissioner for Harbourfront. Now, on where the east end of East Kowloon starts, Victoria Harbour reaches all the way to Lei Yu Moon. We have split our tasks with the EKEO. In Annex 1, you see a map. That's where the focus of the EKEO lies. But we have been thinking about ways to enhance and link up the Chagua Lane section, so it goes all the way to Lei Yu Moon. But EKEO focuses on the area up to Chagua Lane. Once we energize the waterfront, we can boost private development. When you reach Hoi Pun Road, when you look at the flyover operation, those areas used to be sites for vehicles, but now transformation are happening. The place looks nicer. The waterfront space is also improved. So the development encourages enhancements. For industrial buildings, there's a mechanism for businesses to convert the ground level store into catering space. But the applicant will have to meet certain requirements such as fire safety rules. When there are such cases in Kowloon East, our office is happy to coordinate the work, as I said in a moment ago. The waterfront extends all the way to To Kwa Wan and Whampoa. In To Kwa Wan, there were old industrial buildings. They're outside the scope of the EKEO, am I right? So if they want such conversion in To Kwa Wan, what do they do?
Well, we would go all the way to Ma Chao Kok, but we are not limited to our boundary. As long as it is in Kowloon East, we are more than willing to provide advice or facilitate exchanges. All right, I understand Mr. Ring Kong wants to speak for the second round. I'll assign a 4-minute time limit. Thank you, Chair. I think all members are concerned about the development of the waterfront. I hope the Permanent Secretary can take a more strategic approach. We want to develop the harborfront. Of course, we want all sections to have some sort of characteristics, but then we need to have a strategy in mind. How can we tie in better with the design of the respective neighborhoods and in general Hong Kong? We have a long, beautiful harborfront, but we do not have a comprehensive strategy right now with the development of the harborfront. I think we can refer to the examples of many places. For example, in Barcelona, Brisbane, in Australia, Singapore. Recently, they have done some redevelopment in Clarke Quay, as well as Miami in the United States. Their designs are, of course, different. I have visited a few of them myself. I find the waterfront there in these places to be quite vibrant, so I think we can do better in enhancing the waterfront in Hong Kong. I've all along promoted the fact that there should be interaction with water with the harbour front. We have that in Wan Chai, but it is still not a broad interface. We can admire the scenery close to the waterfront, but then there's not much interfacing. I wonder if in Kowloon East we can enhance the interfacing. I've also a minor observation in Kwun Tong. Close to the waterfront of Kowloon East, we have greenways, but then I have seen some citizens comment that some delivery drivers will take the route close to the harbour front, and it can get quite dangerous. We also have more people fishing in Wan Chai or Central in the harbourfront. I'm not against them fishing, but then we have seen a lot more fishing enthusiasts than before. If it's nighttime, it is not that much of a problem, but then in the waterfront close to the Lechco complex, we have seen a lot more fishing enthusiasts. So are we going to do something about them if they are obstructing the area? Now, I think we have good facilities in Kowloon East. If the facilities are managed by the LCSD, we have seen in Wan Chai management is not done so well. We have seen some dilapidated, not well maintained facilities. We have a beautiful chirping seaside now, so is it possible that we can do better in management to make sure we won't see that in Kowloon East, what we see in Wan Chai? Thank you, Permanent Secretary. As I said earlier, not only do we need to have the quantity, but we also need the quality as well as hardware and software. We want the waterfront to be diverse with their respective characteristics. It's not just with the waterfront, actually. With the public spaces nearby, we need to make sure we are creating synergy to bring more footfall in the area. In fact, in the mechanism, we have the Harbourfront Commission, who is overseeing the general development of the harbourfront. We also have in Kowloon East the Energizing Kowloon East office that would also coordinate the development of the waterfront to make sure we are making good use of the resources. I agree with what the members said. We want to make sure the harbourfront is used by the public and the public can enjoy the waterfront while using it. And I think in Kai Tak and the Kwun Tong Typhoon Shelter area, we have an opportunity here. We have approximately 100-meter in area for water activities. We can have canoeing and rowing activities held there. Apart from water sports, we can also have close to Xingfeng Road where people can just appreciate the water-friendly culture and get closer to water. On greenways, we want to make for a wider promenade, and in Kwun Tong Promenade or where it is open in Kai Tak Runway Park, we have passages 20 to 25 meters in width. In greenways, we have put up signs to remind members of the public to be inclusive, whether it's for cyclists or pedestrians. In fact, warnings will be issued if people or cyclists are riding a little too fast. We have seen the LCSD working with us closely, and the LCSD has kept an open mind to how to be facilitating public's access to the area. And on management, we will definitely see if there's any room for improvement. Mr. Yu Patlang, 4 minutes. Thank you, Chair. I just want to follow up on what was said before. We did not have enough time for the government officials to respond. The head of the EKEO talked about the waterfront section close to the Kai Tak Metro Park. She said the view is breathtaking. It faces south. But the problem is, right now there are many barges in operation in the area. The Permanent Secretary said the Marine Department representative will respond to this question. I want to ask if he has any ideas or any plans to reprovision the operations of the barges. Thank you. Permanent Secretary. Thank you. I'll let the Marine Department representative respond to the questions. I'll let him talk about the specific operations. Thank you. I thank Mr. Yu for his questions. In general, if marine traffic is not impeded, vessels can berth in any area except non-berthing areas other than fairways. They can berth in typhoon shelters or any anchorages without Marine Department's approval. They can always berth in another spot that is safe. With the Marine Department's approval, but then Marine Department's powers are limited. If we are to ask ship owners berthing in legal areas, if we are to ask them to move, there can be problems. It may be legally challenged. The government has all along ensured there is adequate space for the berthing of vessels in adverse weather conditions to ensure their safety. Every 5 years, we would conduct a review on the berthing spaces for vessels. If we make any changes, it may affect the supply of such berthing spaces supply. Well, let me say something. I think it's actually not that hard to make it happen in Kowloon East. Perhaps we can talk about it after the meeting. I think there is a conflict between the views between the Marine Department and members. I don't think there is any objection to vessels berthing in the areas in adverse weather conditions, but if they are berthing there in general conditions, them berthing there won't actually bring about economic benefits to Hong Kong. I think there have been much call to do something about this. I urge the department to do something about this. The last one to speak would be me. I want to ask about yachts as well. We have talked about before for Yau Tong, if we are to develop the U-shaped bay, we can make Yau Tong Bay into a yacht bay. What does the government think about this? Will you support this? Lastly, on the amendments to the protection of the harbour ordinance, I believe the amendments would enhance the water-friendly culture, and in fact, the water reclamation works cannot exceed 0.8 hectare. But taking Yau Tong Bay as an example, if we are to have a 0.7 hectare breakwater, it may not be enough for the members of the public to get close to the water. So what is going to happen then? There are different considerations if we are to make the place into a yacht club. There are safety considerations, obviously. With the amendments of the protection of the harbour ordinance as they are right now, are passed, how much can we do in terms of construction of landing facilities in the area in Kowloon East? I know that there are many projects that you would have in mind, for example, close to Kai Tak Cruise Terminal. So how many projects do you have in mind that are related to landing facilities construction? Thank you. Permanent Secretary. I'll let the relevant colleague talk about specifically how it is in Yau Tong on the amendments to the protection of the harbour ordinance. We have some minor works to be done. They are definitely very much needed. Right now, the protection of the harbour ordinance is very strict. There is a presumption against reclamation. We have to pass the overriding public need test. With the boardwalks and the other landing facilities, right now construction can be difficult because it can be impeded by the presumption. We want to make sure with the amendments, these projects can be taken forward. With reclamation, we are exactly with the amendments to the protection of the harbor ordinance take forward minor reclamation works. But for the larger works, we have to make sure we are protecting the Victoria Harbour. That is the overarching principle. As for how many projects we are to take forward with the amendments passed, we do not have a concrete figure at the moment. We have been, however, noting the various suggestions of members. The head of the EKEO will communicate with the CSTB and the TLB on these potential proposals. With these projects, it would definitely be facilitating the access to the harbour front.
Commissioner for Harbourfront. For Yau Tong Bay. So we have planned with waterfront facilities in mind. But that's private lot. So for a yacht club, it will have to be a private project. The plan they have is a mostly residential project. A promenade will be able to support the development of yachts. Since a project is already going on, they can consider whether they want to put a yacht club there. The property owners are involved. If they agree on that, they can pursue technical assessments and then put in a town planning application. For the government, that seems to be a suitable spot and their support, and we keep an open mind. Now, on breakwaters, what if it's larger than the requirement? Now, to clarify, the requirement is actually no bigger than 0.8 hectares. They can still proceed with the breakwaters, but the process becomes more complex. You will have to prove an overriding public need. It's not impossible. That simply requires more assessments and stronger justifications. Nothing to add from me. Members, any other questions? If not, that brings us to the end of this item on the agenda. Any other business? There being no other business, I adjourn the meeting here. Thank you.